afternoon, and welcome to Let's Talk About It, All the Things. Hi, Whitney.
Hi, Chris.
Sorry, everyone. We're like a half an hour late, but the world is frozen, and so is the equipment.
Yes.
So
that is true. Yeah, we had a little technical difficulty there for a minute.
we did.
That was
but
horrible.
Whitney is a pro, and Josh helped as well. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, Josh.
So we're here doing our live stream thing,
Yes.
which is very new to us. I did notice that we already have a couple questions that were posted on like our original post.
Oh, good.
So maybe we just jump into a couple of those for right now.
Yeah, we'll wait till some people log on.
See,
Yeah, so if you see me looking down at the computer, I'm looking through comments, and we have some comments up on the monitor. You can't see it, but if you see me looking down, that's why. But we'll try and get through this. But yeah, let's jump into some questions. Hopefully, everybody jumps on and comments. And
all right. Awesome. So one of the questions I got was, actually there's two that are fairly similar. What are some of the most common signs that a person may be suicidal? And another person wrote, are there warning signs of suicide that we should look for? So yes, I was hoping that this question would come up. So I actually printed some information about this so that we could talk about it. So there's several suicide warning signs. That's kind of what we call them.
Yep.
The first one, we kind of break it down into three categories. The first category is talk. So if a person is talking about it, so it could be maybe they're openly talking about killing themselves, feelings of hopelessness.
detachment.
Yes, detachment, having no reason to live, maybe talking about like the world would be better without them in it, feeling trapped, or talking about just being in unbearable pain or just not knowing how they're going to get through their day. These are all talk signs. So if anybody is talking about any of those kinds of things or that's a huge one.
Yep.
Next one is behavior. Behavior, this covers quite a bit. Increased use of alcohol or drugs. So if they're not, normally, they don't normally drink, and all of a sudden you're starting to notice an increase in alcohol usage, or if they've never really done drugs before, and you start kind of noticing that they're doing a little bit more of that, that would be a sign that we should probably have a conversation with them about, what's going on.
Yes.
Looking for a way to end their lives. So we've heard about especially with teens. So parents, look for this one in your child's browser history. We see a lot of the looking for ways to die.
Yep.
And unfortunately, there's actually several sites out there that encourage suicide and talk about ways to die. Mm-hmm. So
also, unfortunately with web browsers nowadays, you can hide your history.
yes, you can.
So
that's a good point.
But again, monitor
your child's internet usage for sure. If they start withdrawing from activities, I've talked about this before on this podcast. Nikolai did this.
Yep.
He was in cross country and, he played soccer and he did all of these things. And all of a sudden he just he stopped doing all of those things. And he stopped doing a lot of the things like with his friends, and he just became very isolated. And isolating is another warning sign. It's another behavior. So if they start, hanging out in their room more, or declining invitations. So if it's an adult and, you ask them out for dinner or drinks or coffee or whatever, to go for a walk, and they just continue to say no, that's an isolating behavior. And we want to make sure that we're talking to them about, hey, what's going on? I've noticed that, you have declined a couple of invitations. I just want to make sure everything is okay, and just start talking to them. Sleeping too little or too much.
Yes.
I feel like that's a big one. Nikolai slept a ton.
Yeah.
Napping and just
Or
not
sleep
getting
through
out
the
of
day
bed.
and be fully awake at night.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one. Visiting or calling people to say goodbye, giving away prized possessions. We hear this a lot. Maybe they have like, something like an old baseball card or something, and they give it to you, and you're like, whoa, this is weird because this means a lot to you. Like this is something that's very important to you. That's one that's a really big sign.
Yeah.
And also aggression. I know that like, we get angry every once in a while, but this is like, they just start becoming like angry all the time and just a little more aggressive, just even in their language towards just people in general. It doesn't have to be towards any particular person. They also could maybe act out violently. That is also a sign.
Self-harming.
Self-harming is also can lead to some suicide ideation. So especially with the teenage population, that's their way of controlling their environment and things that are going on around them is to self-harm. So we definitely want to have a conversation about that. And then mood. So if they are acting depressed, have anxiety, start showing a loss of interest in anything, which kind of goes back to the isolation, irritability, agitation, or rage. So all of those kind of like mood swings is what I'm going to call them, because if it's not the person's general demeanor and they start doing things differently or acting differently or having different feelings, those are definitely warning signs. So we want to start a conversation on those. So I hope that helps. Whitney, do you have anything to add to that? I mean,
No, I think you covered a lot of it. Yeah, I don't know if I can add anything to that.
yeah,
It's
really important to pay attention.
It is. And, speaking from experience, if anybody's watched our past episodes, yeah, and I never hid that I had some anger problems growing up. I did. And I think it was excessive. Yeah, like you said, it was very, any little thing would trigger me to get angry.
Yeah.
But I think that was based off of the environment I was raised by said parent. So yeah, I think that was a red flag
Absolutely.
that
Yes.
I didn't know until it was kind of too late. And, obviously, people around me were just kind of like, well, why are you angry all the time? Like, honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
But come to find out, I did end up realizing later in life, after fixing it, that's what it was.
Yep.
So, yeah, I gotta say, look for those signs, yeah.
Yeah. And they're not always as obvious as we would like them to be.
Yeah, that's
so,
true. We do have a couple of comments on here. Let's see if we have... so somebody said, if someone I know is suicidal, what should I do?
So if you have directly asked the person, are you thinking of taking your own life? And they have answered yes, because that's the first step. So we may think that somebody is suicidal, but until we actually ask the question, we don't know for sure. And I'm going to preface this by saying that by asking the question, you are in no way, shape, or form putting the thought into their head. It has been disproved that is not a thing. It actually does the opposite, and it shows that person that you care enough to actually ask them the question and that you're there to support them. So once you ask that question, if the answer is yes, we want to make sure that we don't leave that person. I would call 988, which is the crisis hotline number, immediately.
Yep.
And put your friend or whoever it is you're with on the line and have them talk to the crisis volunteer. Hopefully you can de-escalate it. If the volunteer on the other end says, nope, this is really a crisis, they're going to recommend, as will I, that you take them to the ER. It's not an ideal situation. However, that's what you need to do, because we need to make sure that we get them into a safe place.
Yeah. I would say don't jump off the cliff right away. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't go over dramatic with the, okay, you just told me this.
Yes.
Stay calm.
Stay calm.
That's the best thing you can do, is stay calm. Because if you start panicking, they're going to panic even more.
Absolutely.
So yes, stay calm in that scenario.
Absolutely. 100% correct. Yeah. So make sure that you're calm, because they're going to feed off of your energy.
Yeah.
So call 988. And then if we can't de-escalate, then make sure we're taking them to the ER. Call their loved ones, friends, family, whoever it is that they need, to kind of help them through this situation. And then once you've done all of that, please don't walk away from them. Some of the horror stories we've heard is, people will leave a friend at the ER and then never check back in with them because they're afraid.
Yeah.
And I need you to put your bravery boots on and be a really good friend and make sure that we're checking in with them. And, checking in doesn't always mean a phone call. It might be you just stop by and, hey, I just wanted to see you and make sure you're okay, and just see if, you wanted to talk about anything.
Just look at it as if your family member was in the hospital for being sick, surgery, whatever. Same concept.
Yes. Yes.
There's no difference to it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, 988 for sure.
I hope that answered that question.
Yes. Let's see. Our next one, may have already answered this. I was kind of smirking when I started reading this. So when you were answering, I was partially reading this and I started smirking a little bit. So I apologize for that. It's very cold outside and I just wanted to stay in bed and never go back to work ever. How do I break out of this funk? I'm not depressed.
Oh, boy. Don't we all want to stay in bed in the cold?
I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, it's cold. You want to stay in something warm, of course. I'll go with that.
Yeah.
Sorry, we have to have a little light,
a little fun.
fun part of this, right?
Yeah.
So I just had to read that one. Sorry. Hopefully it gave everybody a little laugh. Let's see. What else do we have? Okay. How do I get involved to make a difference with suicide prevention and mental health awareness?
Oh my goodness. This is
Very good question.
This is a great question. And I'm so glad that you asked this. There's a gazillion ways that you can get involved to help with mental health education and suicide prevention. A few of my favorites, share your story.
Yes.
That's my number one.
Yeah. Like I said, you got to talk about it.
Yep. That's why we have this podcast, right?
Yes, exactly.
Let's talk about it.
Talk about all things.
So mental health and suicide have such a humongous stigma still. And the more that we share our own personal stories and we talk about, mental health and suicide and how it's affected us or people that we love, the easier it will be for somebody else to talk about their story.
Because what's the common part of that? You're not alone.
You're not alone.
That's what they end up realizing, because everybody thinks they're alone in this world. Like, I have this thought of that. And no, there's a lot of people that have the same thought.
Yep. Way more than you think.
Yeah.
So that's my number one. I would also say volunteer at a local organization. If you know of, mental health or suicide prevention organization that really speaks to your heart, we really encourage you to volunteer. And I think it will help. It helps the organization so much because they're always desperate for volunteers, especially at larger events. And this really gets you personally involved. You get to meet a lot of people who, are struggling, and it really helps you figure out dialogue to help other people as well.
Yeah.
So definitely get involved. If you don't know of an organization in your area, just Google it. Probably a gazillion of them will come up. There's local, there's national organizations. NAMI is one, AFSP. Those are two of the biggest national organizations that I would recommend. Of course, on a Dragonfly's Wings.
Of course.
I mean, shameless plug.
Nothing wrong with that.
And then I would also say share information on your social media.
Yeah.
Too, because, that's part of the education process.
Yeah, certainly.
I follow a lot of therapists on Instagram, and they share just amazing tidbits and information. And so I try and share a lot of that through my Instagram stories. And that's a really great place to just put some information out there, because you never know who that might help.
Yeah.
So putting it out there. You can fundraise, donate money to an organization that's near to your heart. Advocate for policy change.
Yes.
That's a big one. It's hard to do.
Yeah, don't be afraid. I shouldn't be going into politics. I'll loosely say, don't be afraid to go to your local legislator
Yep,
and push for something.
absolutely. That's how we got House Bill 5482 passed.
Yes.
Yes,
That's right.
because I put on my bravery boots and I talked to a local representative. So it's not a quick process by any means.
And you'd be surprised
but worth
how
it.
many politicians are actually for helping with mental health awareness, suicide prevention.
I mean,
what-
why would they be against it?
Right, exactly. I forgot her name. One in particular, and she does go around to fundraisers or events for mental health fundraising.
Yeah.
So
So that would be another one. So I'm hoping that helps give you some ideas. But that's a great.
yeah.
great.
Let's see. What's our next one? Oh, this is a good one. I keep hearing that we aren't supposed to say committed suicide. Why is that?
Ooh.
Yeah, I very good question. Because that one kind of irks me as well. Because when you go on social media, it's unalived,
Yes.
and it's like, no, just
I don't
just
like
say it
unalived either.
how
Just
it
say
is.
I died by suicide, or
Like, because it's like, oh well, they were killed in a car accident or suicide, or they killed themselves. Why is that so wrong? Because eventually, unalived is going to turn into the new killed term, or whatever, and then they're going to say, nope, you can't say that. Say something else.
So the only thing I will say, so definitely there's a stigma about saying that somebody died by suicide, for sure. And we need to not be afraid to say that somebody died by suicide. So that's first. Second, yes, everybody does say so-and-so committed suicide. I am a proponent of saying died by suicide, and most people out there in the grief realm are going to say died by suicide
What do you-
versus committed.
right.
Because
Sorry, I'll let you finish that.
committed, you commit a crime.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so like if you look at it from like 50 years ago, I mean, actually suicide was a crime, right?
Yeah.
And that's as recent as 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. That has changed. And the realization became that people who struggle with mental health and take their lives, they died by that. Just like you die by cancer, you die by a car accident, you die by whatever.
Yeah.
You don't commit cancer, you don't commit a heart attack. So why do we commit suicide? We don't.
Right.
And it's not a crime. And so let's stop treating it like a crime. So
I agree.
that's,
What do you think of
That's
the
the move.
term "they took their own life"?
I think that's fine too, because you're saying, I mean, the only reason I don't like unalived is because that's just weird. I don't know why.
No, I agree. I fully agree with that. Yeah, no, because I'll find myself, it's like either they committed suicide or they took their own life. That's kind of my go-to in that situation. But yeah, no, the unalive thing is just doesn't jive.
No. Does,
But yeah, that is a very good question. I think the stigma around that has to stop.
yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
So, what do we have next? My friend lost her son to suicide 2 months ago. So sorry to hear about that. I don't know how to help her. Any suggestions?
Ooh, gosh. First of all, I'm very sorry for the loss. And as a suicide survivor, I'm going to just speak to what I wish that people had done for my family, and also things that they actually did do that were extremely helpful. And ironically, I just talked about this today in therapy. Ooh. So,
oh, what did you learn?
I know the things that I was angry about that people didn't do. So this is actually really good timing for this question. I would say first and foremost, check in. And I'm not, and yes, this is a recent suicide death, but I'm almost 6 years out, and I still am wishing that people would periodically just check in with me, because that grief is just so traumatic and
strong.
It is, and it's and it hurts, and it hurts all the time. So make sure that you're checking in. And here's what I'm going to say about checking in: don't just say, "How are you?" Maybe say, just checking in to see how you're feeling today. And then don't say, if there's anything I can do for you, let me know. Because they're never going to let you know. Because here's the thing, especially if she's only 2 months out, she doesn't even know what she needs. She doesn't even know what she needs help with. Mm-hmm. So, for me, I actually had a friend who said, would it be helpful? And literally, we were a good 2 months out from Nikolai's death. And a dear friend of mine said, would it be helpful for you if I set up a meal train?
Oh, wow.
Nobody does it 2 months out. You do it the week after the funeral, right? She did it 2 months out. And I will tell you, that was one of my biggest blessings, because even 2 months out, the thought of even trying to figure out what I was going to make for meals, and then the thought of going to the grocery store where everybody else is walking around completely normal and I'm heartbroken is awful. Mm-hmm. And honestly, what's the last thing you want to do? Clean your house, cook. You're grieving.
You want to do nothing.
You want to do nothing. So she set up a meal train that covered almost 3 weeks. Oh. And it was seriously the best blessing for me. We also had a neighbor of ours who just told us that he was mowing our lawn for us for 2 months.
Oh,
and he did awesome. That. And here's the thing, I didn't ask for that. He just told me that he was going to do that. And I feel like those are the things that are the most helpful, is when you just do something. I saw a meme not too long ago that was talking about kind of the same thing. And it was texting your friend and saying, here are your options. And this one in particular, they had other kids. So it was, I can bring a meal tonight for your entire family. I can pick up your kids and take them somewhere and bring them back at such and such time. Or I can do whatever. So it was like a list, and then she had to pick. And that's awesome, right? Because you're putting out really great options, but they're helpful, and you're not just saying, hey, what can I do for you?
Right.
Because I don't know.
Yeah, your brain's just...
And even if I do know, I'm not going to ask you.
Right, yeah, exactly. Because then you're going to feel even worse by saying, hey, can you do this for me? Oh, I shouldn't have said that.
Right.
I totally get that, yeah.
Right. So that's my biggest thing. I hope that helps a little bit. I just, just being there and constantly checking in. And I was in a grief support training too last week, and one of the things they talked about as a friend, if it was a very significant loss to someone, maybe marking down the birth date and the death date in your calendar, so that on those dates you could send them a text just thinking about you today. I also saw one where you can just send them like a red heart, which I have a really good friend who sends me a blue heart because blue hearts are my thing for Nikolai. She'll just send me a random blue heart once in a while. And I just know that's her way of sending me love
Yeah.
and just letting me know that she's thinking about
Well,
me.
you know, that's interesting that you say that, because it just reminded me of a scenario that happened just a few months ago. I was hanging out with an old friend that, again, if you watch any of our episodes, I told this story. It was an ex-friend from our big friend group that split up, and then when Trevor passed away, we all kind of came back together. It was one of those friends, and I was hanging out with them. And we were leaving, staying in the parking lot, we were talking, and there were certain things being said at the time. So I don't know if it was under frustration of what was happening, or I kind of believe it was true, because kind of when you say something like that, you're kind of holding back saying it. So I think what you said was true. But I kind of got blamed for not going out the night of Trevor's birthday. Like, I didn't reach out to this friend to say, hey, do you want to go grab a drink? You know, it's Trevor's birthday, you know, whatever. I kind of got blamed for it. You know, unfortunately, I was working that night. I was working till like 9 o'clock that night. I did not forget that it was Trevor's birthday. I definitely had that in my head the whole day. Said friend didn't reach out to me at all, but you're going to point the finger at me and go, well, you didn't want to do anything, and I was all alone at my house just sitting there, and like, no, don't point fingers. I was hurting just as much as you.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. That's too bad because you're both sitting in your own grief space, right?
of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, reach out. I like those ideas.
Yeah.
You know, just offer a little bit of help.
Yep.
You know,
Absolutely.
let's see, what else do we have? Thank you for the clarification on what to say and what not to say. Just checking it out for what you can do. Okay, so just checking and offering what you can and can't do, allowing it to be a yes or a no.
Yep.
So yes, that's
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you for going live. You're very welcome for us going live. I hope you're liking this, Chris.
Yeah.
I know you're a little nervous on that one.
It's a little different for me, as you all know. I was a little nervous coming on here, but
Yeah, I'm kind of liking the interaction with everybody. Okay, do you have any suggestions or activities that would help keep a loved one's memory alive?
oh gosh.
Several.
Several, but it really depends on you as an individual or as a family, right?
Yeah.
Because what means something to me is going to mean something completely different to you or to your family or to your friend group or whatever. I mean,
Well, we just talked about it for our holiday grief episode. So specifically for around Thanksgiving, Christmas, you know, we talked about maybe creating ornaments.
yes, we did.
You know, there was one I think was talked about where they did a place setting on the table for that person that they lost. Geez, there was so many we talked about. I'm
There was a lot.
not going to remember any of them.
Yeah,
But
I remember one of them was like maybe creating, and I've seen quite a few people do this actually for a lost loved one, where you kind of create like a little space in your home that has like their pictures,
Yep.
you know, and maybe candles or something that you light, but something that's special. I have actually two friends who were given trees that they planted in their yards, and it becomes their loved one's tree. And I think that's really cool because they decorate it for like every holiday, even though it's outside.
Yeah.
They decorate it for every holiday. And one of the women actually made a little garden around the tree for her daughter. And she's put, you know, painted rocks and like her favorite flowers are in this garden around this tree. And so I think that's amazing because trees are just so cool, but it's just a nice way of kind of, I mean, we have a little garden for Nikolai at our house, and we've got a couple of, like, we have his old, his stepping stone with his little feet, from when he was like 4 in this thing, and they're so tiny. But we have that, and then we have some other things in there. So I think gardens are amazing. I have another friend that actually had a bench built and installed in her daughter's favorite park.
Oh, wow.
With her name on it. And it was like in memory of. And I think that's very meaningful. Even like those little libraries, I've seen some where they've dedicated little libraries to lost loved ones. But yeah, I mean, even like in your own home, like we talked about on that Holiday Groove podcast, like you're right, like make an ornament that's a really cool activity to do. And you can do that as a family. That's really awesome.
Yep.
So I think it's very individual for people on keeping a memory alive. My favorite, honestly, is just always talking about them.
Yeah.
Telling stories, just making sure that their name is brought up on a regular basis so that.
Like if you're doing something, you'd be like, oh yeah, so-and-so would always say it.
Yeah. Like say their name, talk about them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to keep their memory alive is just to tell stories and just continually talk about them.
Yeah.
For Nikolai, I actually bought him a Christmas gift this year. He loved Legos, and if you've heard this story, when we actually buried his cremains, my husband had built a very elaborate Lego box that we ended up putting his box of ashes inside. And at the burial, we had put all of his little Lego minifigures on the top of the box. And we asked everyone to take one that meant something to them to kind of remember Nikolai by. So everyone walked away with a Lego minifig. And this year for Christmas, he loved the movie Toy Story. And I found a little alien minifig. I was at like some like festival or whatever, and this guy had these like kind of like old, like retired Legos. And I found this little alien minifig. And so I bought it. And so it's actually on his headstone right now. So
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, it's very individual.
It is. And I would say if possession-wise, so like clothing, if they're into sports, so if they have sports gear or anything like that, something simple as like take a T-shirt of theirs, turn it into a pillow.
Oh my gosh. Or a blanket.
Or a
You could do
blanket. Yeah, you can do a
blankets.
quilt type style.
That's a great
like,
idea.
I still have Trevor's hat that I swiped from him years ago and he never got back. I still have that. So yeah, like if there's something like that, do a little crafty art thing with it, maybe.
keepsake.
And then that way you can put it on the couch or on the bed or something. And, that would help as well.
Yeah, I love that idea. Yeah, especially like the pillow or the blanket idea. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay, let's see. Casual conversation. Okay. In a casual conversation, what would be the best way to respond if someone tells you that their loved one died by suicide?
Gosh.
How would you respond to that?
So I'm going to say this. I personally would say, I am so very sorry for your loss. Now, I was just in a grief support training last week, and one of the participants was saying how it was a therapist, and they had a client who said the worst thing that people ever said to her was, I'm sorry. So I think that is also very individual. See, this is where it's really hard as you non-grievers to talk to us grievers, because what one person is okay with, another person is not. And that makes it very difficult for you to support us, right? Because we're just like, it's crazy. So I personally am not offended by I'm sorry.
Nope.
Because I feel like you genuinely are.
Right. Because I'm also going to understand maybe you don't know what to say past that.
Right. The other thing too, though, a lot of times what I will say very simply is, I am so very sorry. I love you. And I know this is hard for you. And I will be there for you. And then be there for them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Don't drop it and then walk away.
Right.
This isn't a mic drop situation. But just, I would keep it very simple. I think a lot of times what we do is when somebody says that, you know, they've had a loss, especially a suicide loss, people don't know what to say, right? Because it's really awkward. And so they'll say things like, you know, well, they're in a better place, or, you know, whatever. Don't say things like that. Don't fill airspace. So if all you can muster is just, and I love you, and give them a hug, awesome. I say call it a day on that.
I like, how have you been doing lately?
Yes.
How have you been feeling since all that?
Yes.
I think that would be a helpful one.
Yes.
Because maybe then you don't know if this person has actually talked to anybody between that time frame to talk to you, and you might be the first one to say, how have you been feeling?
Yeah.
And they might just let loose.
Yeah.
So that one could help as well.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is self-care just a buzzword, or should we really prioritize it? And second part to that is, what are some good ways to care for ourselves?
Oh, great question. It does seem like it's a buzzword. However, it really is not. And yes, it is a priority. You have to put on your own oxygen mask first. I hate that when people say that, so I just said that. But it is 100% true. It
is.
really, really is.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use myself as a perfect example. I have not taken care of myself. I have not handled my grief. My body is just, it literally was rejecting me. I don't even know how to say that in a better way. And I really had to prioritize myself. And here's the thing, self-care is not always, it can be, but it's not like bubble baths and
Spas.
yeah, it's more eating the right foods and
Doing something, an activity that you like.
that you like, going for a walk in nature. It can be journaling, it can be reading, it can be talking to a friend, it can be going out for coffee by yourself. It can be like me, go get a therapist. Because
I did see you went and-
that stuff is real
That is
and
true.
it's got to come out.
I saw you went and visit the horse farm.
I did. Yes, horse therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was amazing. Absolutely, hands down, probably one of the best things I've ever done
Yeah.
for myself. Yeah. So it is absolutely a priority. And you're going to have to figure out what that looks and feels like for you. Because again, this is a really individual thing. I'm going to tell you, I love to read. I'm a book nerd. I also love to color. So I have a million adult coloring books. I love the woods and my dog, so I hike a lot. But I also had some tests done, have eliminated some foods from my diet that were making me not feel very good. They were inflaming my body. I've started putting in some additional movement, light movement, just to keep my body moving. I've started therapy. I've started taking some vitamins. So there's all of these things that you can do to help yourself, but you have to figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
And maybe bubble baths is the answer for you,
Could be.
and maybe it's not. But I will say for sure, if you are not already putting in your calendar 30 minutes a day to spend by yourself, start today. and do it.
Yes.
And I mean, put it in your calendar or in your phone or whatever you got to do, 30 minutes. And I don't care what you do in that 30 minutes, but 30 minutes is just you time. That's it. We're not catering to kids or spouses or friends.
Yep.
We're not taking calls. We're not texting. We are just spending 30 minutes doing what we want to do because we have to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah. Or it's going to rear its ugly head,
Yeah,
and it's not pretty.
it's not. It really isn't. Absolutely not. So yeah, but I agree with that. It's more of an individual, but and sometimes depending on what you're going through at the time, you might have to look back 5 years ago. What was I doing 5 years ago that I really like that I don't do anymore? So dig deep.
Dig deep. Yeah.
You'll get there.
Yeah. And take a lot of deep breaths every
And that's coming from me. I haven't taken a vacation in almost 3 years.
Whitney.
Sorry. I know. Josh yells at me all the time.
Look at her.
So
Oh, man.
I know, right? I just
Josh, she needs a vacation. We need to force this issue.
don't help him out.
I will totally help him out with this
Oh,
one.
goodness. Eventually I'll get there. I will. Don't worry. Okay. Here we go. Do you have any book recommendations for self-care?
Oh, gosh. No, I actually don't. Do you?
No. The only one I can think of is literally just probably called self-help or self-care. Like that's the only thing that comes to my head. Because I'm not much of a book person, but
Oh,
No,
gosh. I mean, so I've read a lot of how to come out the other side of grief. I've read books on, dealing with suicide loss.
I can tell you one on divorce.
But we are completely not helpful with the book recommendations for self-care.
Unfortunately.
I'm sure there's a million of them out there. If anybody else
you know
has
what?
recommendations or books
Let's do
you've
this.
read, please put them out there to maybe help. But yeah, everything that I have learned about self-care and what works for me and what doesn't work for me has just been trial and error, honestly.
Certainly. And just doing a quick, you can Google this as well. So that's what
got?
I just did. So just a few that popped up. Don't know if they're actually great. According to the internet, they got good reviews. A couple: Forgiving What You Can't Forget,
Oh,
Healing the Soul of a Woman. Now, granted, that could go for a man as well. Who knows? How to Heal Yourself When No One Else Can.
oh, good one.
Oh, this one might be interesting. Things We Hide from the Light.
Oh, I mean, so far all the titles sound amazing.
And of course, Real Self-Care.
Excellent.
So just, Google it and see what has some good reviews, see what the whole plot is for them, and just see what kind of vibes for you.
Yeah. I will say, again, I listen to a lot of podcasts too. I mean, nothing really is coming straight to my mind, but I love Mel Robbins. And she does a lot of self-care podcasts, so that might be one that you want to look into. Brene Brown is a good one, but she's not really self-care. She's just, some of it is, I guess, or I don't know. But maybe do like a search in Spotify and look for, if you can put in like self-care podcasts, and I'm certain that there's probably a gazillion of them that will come up, and maybe kind of read the summaries of them, maybe listen to an episode or two of a few of them and kind of find somebody that you like. But I love podcasts, just especially because I work at a job where I listen to podcasts all day, and so that's a great idea.
Right. Well, if you take that half hour and read part of that book,
Yeah, there you go.
maybe there's your self-care.
There you go.
So sorry about that one that we couldn't give better
Yeah, sorry.
advice on it, but yeah, do a little bit of Google search in there. All right, let's see. Hope everybody's enjoying this live. let's see. Not really the topic. I really enjoy coffee self-talk is what somebody posted.
Ooh,
and they did post a link in there. So if you scroll through the comments, you'll find that link
Excellent.
with that person. It's called Coffee Self-Talk.
Ooh, I might look that up
I'm
as
guessing
well.
that's going to be a podcast.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, anybody else, give it a few to let people. I know we started late, so we're kind of still letting people jump in and all that fun stuff. You got any stories or anything like that? Because I had an idea to chat with you about, and maybe some viewers can chime in. And I was thinking about it because I've been seeing them a lot lately. Let me get to them before I actually say it. Mental health memes. Or, I don't know if you want to call it like emotional memes
Okay.
type deal. So just somebody writing out a quote of feeling sad, feeling happy, or, just something like that. I've been seeing them a lot lately.
Really?
Yeah. And, I say it was on TikTok. So to give you a couple of what I'm talking about. So one that kind of struck me because it was always it became a new boundary for me. It says new rules. You call me, I call you. You text me, I text you. You ignore me, I ignore you. You hate me, I don't care. This year, I'm done forcing things. So there's that. And again, these can go deep. One says, want to hear the truth? And it says, no matter how pure your heart is, you'll eventually have to treat people the way they treated you.
Ouch.
So, these memes or videos are coming up, and it's just...
What are you thinking? What are you feeling about
Yeah,
those?
it's like some can relate with. And it's like, yeah, I do kind of feel like that. It's like, certain people in my life or everything in my life, yeah, I can kind of get that. But on the other hand, you read some of these, it's like this one, why are we always arguing? And it's kind of like yourself. It's supposed to be kind of yourself, your the good and the bad side of you, right? So the good of you is going, why are we always arguing? And that darker part of you goes, you don't understand. When I bring something up, it's not to argue. I try to resolve things, gain clarity, learn to communicate, and take accountability. And so in a sense, it's that meme is saying you're fighting yourself.
Okay.
So yeah, that's something I could relate to.
Yeah.
I have in the past. But a lot of these also go, wow, that's really deep, because some people do put, I don't think I should be in this world.
Yeah.
So is that influenced, much like people like to say, movies influence, video games influence, TV shows influence, these memes, do they influence some type of emotion or trigger something?
I mean, I suppose they do. I mean, depending on the person and how they're reading it and does it resonate with them. I mean, like you said, like some of them resonate with you. When I'm reading like memes or different things, like the first one that you read, I mean, for me, that's more the way that I looked at that meme was, I only want to expend my energy on those people that really fulfill my soul, right? That bring me joy. So it's not that I'm going to be unfriendly towards other people. It's just, I may not put a lot of effort and energy into you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think, it's all in kind of how you read those and how you interpret it. I mean, if somebody is putting out a meme about, I think the world would be better off without me. That goes back to that warning sign that we talked about, because Nikolai said that many times. I think our family would be better off without me in it. Yeah. And that's a big warning sign. So that would be something, if you know that person, I would be reaching out. Or even if you don't, like if it's just like on a meme, like on a random group or something. I mean, just as a human being, just responding and just being, we are all worthy of being here in this world, and you impact more people than you know or that you realize. And maybe those are the words that person needed to hear, and you never know.
True. So. Now, do you think it's possible that some of the memes that people put out, especially if they're darker like that, do you think that in a way that could help the person as a release?
Very well could.
Now, I'm not saying don't take it, for what they're saying and just put it to the side, but I do wonder if sometimes it's just a release for that person to be like, okay, I put it out there, whatever, I'm done. I'm good. I'm better.
It could, but that's a scary thing to put out there.
Yeah.
And that still raises like a million red flags and alarm bells in my head if somebody was to do that. Like they may be like, oh no, I was just, thinking out loud. But I don't know. That still brings a lot of alarm bells for me. So
yeah. So if you see something like that on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, maybe do leave a comment and make sure they're okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
all right. Any other questions? Because I feel like maybe we've been on for almost an hour now, even with our equipment issues.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else watching have questions, comments, facts, stories that you would like to share?
I think
I'm actually loving this live.
Of course you are. This is totally Whitney's jam.
Mm-hmm. It is. Again, still surprised you agreed to this.
I'm kind of surprised I agreed to it too, but I figure you're the professional, you have it handled, it's all fine.
And we made it through it.
And we did make it through it. So I personally want to thank everybody who came on the live today, and for all your amazing questions. And I really hope that we answered them well enough that hopefully you got something out of it. And just really, really grateful. And if you weren't able to be on the live, hopefully you'll come out and watch it later.
Yeah.
So
I don't know, maybe down the road we'll do another live at some point.
Maybe.
We
gotta wait some months. I gotta recover from this one first.
Yeah. Not right away. Maybe for start of season 4, we'll see.
All right. So our next podcast episode 3, will be recorded in February, and we are going to have Anthony Grupido on. I don't know how many of you out there know them, but he is a magician. Mm-hmm. And he goes to pretty much any event, but he specifically does a lot of school assemblies on mental health. And he does an incredible job kind of telling his personal story of mental health and his suicide ideation and his suicide attempts, but in just a really amazing way through his magic. And so we're going to have him on the show, and he's going to talk all about kind of how that all came about, the whole magic show thing, because he's actually very talented. It's amazing.
He is, yeah.
So we're very excited. We're going to have him on next time.
Maybe we'll have him do a little magic for us.
Maybe. So if you watch it on YouTube, you could actually see it. Ooh. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for being on today. We will see you in February, and we will catch you on the flip side. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We are just your friends. Whitney and I are not licensed therapists, and this podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professional.